Greetings and strangulations, my fellow weirdos. Come on in here to the Library of Horror Hotel, where it's time once again for... What's it time for? Time for whatever this is. And today on Whatever This Is, we'll be once again discussing and exploring and giving a little appreciation to the fine art of Halloween masks. Now, today's mask, maybe you won't love it as much as I do, but I'm kind of loving it. I was actually looking forward to this one and considering it one of the most exciting releases of the year 2024. Maybe you won't find it as exciting as I do. I think you have to be really old or really cool to appreciate this, or both. Really old and really cool. It's, what is it? What is he talking about? This thing. Why is that such a big deal? Well, his name is Erik. E-R-I-K. All right, now if he looks familiar, well, it may be that you have some unattractive people at the family reunion. Or could be that you remember seeing something like this many, many years ago. Now, the original Erik looked just like this, and it was a Don Post Studios mask back from the old days of the 1970s. Holy mackerel. And the original Erik designed and sculpted by Bill Malone for Don Post Studios. And why does he look like this? What is he? Well, the reason he's named Erik is because guys named Erik tend to be weird and creepy. That's just the way it goes. But oh, there's another reason? Oh, in some versions of the Phantom of the Opera, the Phantom's name is Erik. Now, this original version came out in the 70s after Don Post Studios' licensing agreement with Universal Studios ended. So the movie version of the Phantom of the Opera mask was discontinued, the one that looked like Lon Chaney with his famous skull face makeup. That version was discontinued, and it was a cool time to be into masks because all these variations on themes came out. This was sort of their answer to the Phantom. Hey, what do you... Settle down. This version was sort of their answer to the Phantom. Now, at the time, I didn't think he really looked like a Phantom of the Opera because to me, the Phantom of the Opera was the living skull looking guy. Or, if not the Lon Chaney version from 1925, he would certainly look like the Claude Rains version from 1947 or the Herbert Lom version from 1962, both of which looked like guys with big chunks of their face missing. Big red chunks of exposed, peeled off, you know what I'm saying? Yeah, and he doesn't look like either one of those. So I thought he sort of looked more like a corpse or a zombie or kind of a sad Walking Dead character. And I always liked this design a lot. He was creepy and still had a sense of fun even under the creepiness and the pathos and everything. Now, again, he doesn't look that much like the Phantom of the Opera to me. He looks more like something from an old Italian horror movie that would be creeping around the catacombs underneath the castle. Try saying that 6 times fast. A movie like Death Smiles on a Murderer or The Murder Clinic. He looks like something from one of those movies made up by those makeup artists, I think. Don't you think? Nah, he doesn't think so. Anyway, Erik is like an old friend now because obviously I had one when I was a kid. I had that thing for like 30 years. And for those of you who think you can't get away with putting a latex mask on a styrofoam head because the styrofoam melts the latex, it didn't back then because that Don Post mask was on a styrofoam head in my collection for, no kidding, like 30 years. And still, I was only just barely starting to deteriorate. And finally, I ended up giving it to some friends to use as a Halloween decoration. But why am I talking about 2024? Well, that was the year when Trick or Treat Studios released this new special edition Erik that is part of their Don Post retro reissue line. And it's considered a Don Post classic, even though it's not the movie Phantom of the Opera. It's a classic Don Post mask from back in the day. Now, this has been resculpted for you by Justin Mabry. And I know it's not the same original sculpture. I know, a little bit different, but it's very close. It's so close, it looks the same in photos. And even stylistically, not just in terms of where the details are placed and the positioning of scars and placement of little bumps and stuff. Beyond that, stylistically, it looks like the same sculptural style you could believe it was from back in the 70s when the original mask came out. And I appreciate that, you know, rather than looking at it like, here's what it should have looked like. No, they went at it with love and respect for the original design and resculpted it to look just like it. Now, what's different about it? It's bigger, it's larger, and it kind of needs to be, hear me out, those of you who are purists on that kind of thing, it needs to be a little bigger because the old one was very small. And I remember I could get it on my head, but you had to really stretch and pull and stretch that thing like crazy. And it was worth it because if you were going to wear it at the haunted house or some such thing, once you did get it on, it would really be tight and would be so close fitting. It looked very realistic. It didn't look like you were wearing a big Halloween mask. It really looked like it fit. And this is gross and disgusting, I know. But the one that I had, these nostril cuts where those nostrils go up in there, those actually went right up my nostrils. This mask got right up my nose. And it was so easy to breathe. You didn't feel like you were suffocating. Okay, I didn't. And the mouth was so tight and close fitting, everything was tight. And some people think that sounds terrible and think that sounds like, you know, claustrophobia torture. But actually, for me, I like the tight fitting masks because you don't feel that greasy, sweaty latex that sometimes bumps up against you of a bigger mask. When it's a tight mask, it's almost like a second skin. And apart from the visual impairment, you could almost forget you're wearing it. And that's how the old Erik was on me. I could get it on, but it took a lot of stretching. Well, today they need to make things a little bit bigger because today's latex isn't stretchy. You can't hardly stretch this stuff at all. But they use much higher quality materials at Downpost Studios than anybody uses today, except for the occasional private artist. But as far as production masks go, modern latex is not stretchy like that. Now, what does he mean by production masks? Okay, when I say production masks, I'm just talking about produced at a major facility, a big production facility or a big studio, as opposed to something made by a private artist with a privately owned little business or hand finishing everything. A production mask, I'm talking about something that comes off a production line. Now, that's not the same as an assembly line, really. I am loath to say factory because that sounds like a put down. It sounds like somebody's pulling a big lever and you know, you should leave her alone. And there's a big great machine squirting out masks. That isn't how it goes. But so that's why I don't want to say factory. I don't want to conjure up that kind of image in your strange mind. But the Erik mask is not made like that. But it is a production mask. I believe it sells for around $70, which is not bad when you consider it's got the whole neck. It's got a full head of hair, as you can see. Thin, sparse, because he's a dead guy, right? He's a phantom. So the hair is not real beautiful. And the one that I had for those many, many years had gray hair, similar to this. And the paint colors are just identical. It looks exactly like, in a photo, this looks like the one from the 70s. It's that close. The differences are so small. The only way I could really tell for sure if you just handed me this, that it's not from the 70s, is that it's bigger than the masks back then. But that was a common complaint back in the day, that a lot of people couldn't get the masks on because they were sort of small. And again, you had to do a lot of stretching. But I thought it was worth it. You might not agree. As far as what he would wear, well, a cape and a dark suit if you're going for the Phantom of the Opera, or he could just wear zombie clothes if you're going for sad-faced dead guy, which is what I normally did with him when we used him at Horror Hotel and when I wore him in the haunted house and stuff. I usually just went for generic corpse, although an outfit like the Phantom, or like you might think Dracula or Mr. Hyde would wear, those look great with him too. So if you appreciate old masks and old school monsters and vintage American Halloween products, I think, yeah, grab an Erik from the Weirdos at Trick or Treat, because this is a very cool, very exciting, kind of retro Halloween, kind of a piece of Halloween history, and I'm liking it a lot. And on that note, let me just remind you until next time that like they say in Lower Moldavia, a wet bat never flies upside down on a Monday. I don't know, ask somebody from Lower Moldavia.